Okay, this is the first update from my new side project, the Canvatorium. This is basically just a series of labs where I'm going to be experimenting with spatial computing concepts, mostly around working with data and manipulating data in various ways. I'm working in Vue.js primarily and working with Babylon.js, but while most of the stuff is in this one repo, I'll probably have some labs that are broken out into separate projects, maybe on Glitch or Code Sandbox, things like that. But this is the initial project that I set up. Um, I've got 3 labs done just to build some scaffolding. And like I said, it's a Vue app. It's using Vue 3. And the first lab was basically just using the same approach that I used during the Vue into JS series to basically use a kind of a wrapper interface object to create a Babylon JS scene and then create it from Vue.js on mounted. So it's pretty much the exact same thing. I use this scene to also kind of create some reusable components or little bits of JavaScript for a camera, some lights in the room, and so that lab, not really anything experimental going on here, but I just set up this environment, um, just using the grid material from Babylon JS and a nice scene color. Um, so yeah, there's an arc rotate camera and a couple of lights in the scene. Not too much lighting, but just enough to be able to see everything. So in lab 001, I picked out some colors. This is a color palette that I've used before. I've used these colors on the bottom in an app that I used to have on the iOS App Store, and I thought I would reuse these here. They're a bit muted because I'm using the standard material and I'm lazy. I can show you yeah, I'm using the standard material, returning the colors here, and where was that? Yeah, there's a make box function down here. Um, the standard material is a little bit shiny, so I added a gray color as a specular to the material to kind of take that shininess off. So they're a little bit more muted than normal, but I think they'll look quite a bit different on UI objects. So yeah, that's also not particularly experimental. And just some colors for, you know, cards and background objects. And then today I spent some time, well, I guess before this one, the other thing that I did differently in lab 1 versus lab 0 was that I refactored the scene into it. I got rid of the interface object. So there's a lab 00's view component and a lab 000 wrapper. And in lab 001, I got rid of the wrapper object and implemented everything in the script setup in Vue 3. So everything is just at the top level of this component. The template itself is just a canvas and a paragraph. But I just wanted to play with the script setup syntax. I haven't worked a ton with the composition API or script setup in Vue.js yet, so this is partly learning that stuff as I go. So in this case, I just create the Babylon canvas. I've got to create scene function. I've got to make box function. Really simple stuff. And then in lab 2, this is the one I worked on today. I wanted to play with a bit of reactive data, expanding on that script setup competition API example from yesterday. So same kind of thing. I imported the reusable objects. I imported some GUI stuff, imported some stuff from Vue Core, Ref, and Watch. And I just created a couple of things, some sample values. I've got a sample string here and a count. There's just a number and a basic scene that just goes through and adds a couple of things. I've got a make card, and this is that watch bit of text up here. All this does is just give me some place to draw text to when I click the button. And then I've got a button here. And then the button pointer up observable just iterates the count just adds it by 1 and just changes the default value from default to modified on the sample value. And so that will update the references to this reactive variables. And then I played with watch with a single value and watch with a double value and then watch effect to be able to watch those values. So in this case, we're just watching count. And whenever I click that button, the button is going to iterate count, and this watcher will run and will find that text object in the scene and update its value. And just really basic stuff. This was I think this is an interesting way of kind of decoupling the components from one another, where I can just pass in the objects that they need to do without actually passing in all of the stuff to reference the card that they need to go find and update. So yeah, that's the idea behind that. And I had a couple different versions of it. I've got it with, like I said, just the single count value and the version with multiple values. And we can reload this and see, we start with watch, change it to default, and we can kind of see the values change over time. So yeah, a lot more to do. A lot of ideas coming in the future. I also did a version of this with the watch effect, but I found that kind of annoying with the initial run. I think watch is generally what I'm going to be using for simple things. So yeah, that's the project so far. There's a lot more to come over the next weeks, months, years. I have no idea how long this will take. There's not really any specific end goal for this project. This is just a place to play with ideas that I'm going to be using in other projects. So yeah, let me know what you think.